both of them are actually starting with the strongest class, which would be these two class. Well, not the strongest class, it's probably the most consistent class, I mean. But playing the most consistent class is actually good in like a conquest kind of format. The reason why it's good is because you want to feel like you want to test the waters. You want to know what your opponent is kind of like playing, and you start that with your strongest class. And by using the strongest class, if your opponent tends to not play something that's conventional, you can see what they're playing and then beat the deck, and so that surprise factor is actually lost. So that's why it's good to actually start with the strongest class that you have in your lineup. So Possessed Villager being played on turn 1, that's actually quite good. So double flame whip is what I really like to see here. So this is actually a very, very strong kind of opening. So very, very good. Okay. So double flame whip. Oh man, that's actually really hard for like Perna to actually deal with. Unless he has Abusive Sergeant, but he doesn't, so it's gonna be really hard. Okay, so Dark Peddler is being played. Voidwalker seems to be okay. Elven Archer seems not bad as well, comboed out with the Possessed Villager, just because you can remove the Flame Imps early next turn. Especially when you don't have the Abusive Sergeants too, so yeah, I definitely like taking the Elven Archer. That's the only way that allows you to actually move these two Flame Imps on. Okay, so yeah, okay, so Possessed Villager is probably the only thing I would trade to because you don't want too much value out of it. Ooh, okay, yeah, I like this, I like this. I would possibly play a lot more aggressively, or maybe actually just pop the Death Rattle and use the second Flame Imp to actually go face. But since you're trading it anyways, you might as well trade out the whole thing of the Possessed Villager with the Death Rattle token. Alright, so the Dark Peddler goes into the Flame Imp just so it can sort of leave the Councilman contesting the... So, there is actually a full board kind of clear for Ginge just by using the Abusive Sergeant into the... Yeah, your own Abusive Sergeant and into the Dark Councilman. Looking really good for Ginge. Also having a very good start in the beginning too. It really matters in this kind of matchup is because Zoo itself doesn't really have any kind of comeback missiles or board clear, so you really need to fight with the board with like certain tempo kind of cards. You really have to take advantage of Power Overwhelming and also Abusive Sergeant as well. And we see the Elven Archer doing its job, sniping down the Abusive Sergeant, putting ahead just a little, just control the board just a little bit, hoping to find that tempo that he needs to come back with. In Perna's kind of side, I feel like the way that he can actually come back is with like a very big creature like the Doom Guard that we see in hand, or possibly like the Sea Giant. You have to pose a threat to Ginge and make moving the Dire Wolf Alpha as well, just because it does represent 4 points of damage and the Council only represents 3. But I think the potential power level that the Councilman actually has is actually pretty disgusting. I feel Ginge is probably answered with his own kind of Doom Guard. The Imp Game Boss is... The Imp Game Boss is actually not really too relevant right here, so... Yeah, so having 3 big bodies on board from Ginge's side, very hard for Perna to actually beat them down with like an empty board, like to get the board kind of back with the empty board. But Knife Juggler is probably one of the cards that you can bring back the board with. It just needs to snipes down to 2 1-health creatures. If he can do it, he's definitely in a very good position. Oh, but it goes to face. Dire Wolf Alpha really needs to die here because it does represent 4 kind of damage. Oh man, it actually hits the correct target too. Oh man, that defensive Argent is being picked up. That's a really good pickup. It allows the Doom Guard to be a lot more sticky. That can easily trade into the 6-1 kind of Doom Guard. I preferably go face here. You do have a lot of damage on that. So, okay, so trading here. So leaving up with a 6-1 kind of body where the Archer Squad can trade very cleanly into. Dire Wolf Alpha is being picked up right now. So tapping right here just to see if he has another card. Oh man! The Forbidden Ritual, that is a good card to pick up. So trading the Argent Squire into the Doom Guard, replenishing the board. This is the comeback kind of mechanism that Perna actually needed to potentially win this game. Alright, so just because Perna is a little bit ahead on board, Ginge trading out just a little bit. Oh man, picking up the in-game boss is really good too. Dire Wolf Alpha is going to be really good here. It's going to be trading out most of the board too. Just because if he puts it on the far left between the Argent Squire and one of the tentacles, he can potentially use all the creatures to potentially trade everything out. So you're using one of the 1/1 tokens instead. Well, he's gonna so his whole board doesn't really add up to exactly 3 damage anyways. So yeah, trading it out like that. So using the tentacles on the left hand side to trade one of them. Especially when the Dire Wolf Alpha is buffing the Voidwalker, the Argus is gonna die anyways too. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is really nice. So everything is gonna be traded out. And then just forcing the Defender of Argus to trade into the Voidwalker. I definitely like this play. Oh, but picking up the Doomguard while also allowing to play the Voidwalker, that is really good. So Voidwalker is possibly being played, and Doomguard is probably going to trade into the Voidwalker, and then using the Argent Squire, the Defender of Argus to trade into the Direwolf Alpha. Oh man, and having his Doomguard protected too, so this Doomguard is probably going to do a lot of work, but a Defender of Argus is going to be picked up. If a 1-drop is picked up, oh man. Both of these cards are going to be buffed up by Defender of Argus, so it's looking pretty good for Perna right now. Just because his face is also being protected too, so this Defender of Argus will probably have to do a lot of work to actually bypass these taunts. Possessed Villager is not one of the cards he's actually looking for. Knife Juggler can potentially actually be pretty good. So being played with a Possessed Villager, I personally want it on the 1/1. Just so Perna doesn't have a lot of bodies to actually trade into Ginge's board. Wonder if I should tap or not, but I feel like the taunt itself would actually be safe enough, and another Doomguard is picked up. Man, that's actually pretty disgusting what Perna is actually picking up right now. So you can use the 1/1 to actually trade into the Doomguard, and then use the 3/4 to trade into the Knife Juggler. And Ginge knows that he can't actually fight back from the board because he's too far behind. So
for Doomhammer, your soul shall be mine.
okay, so playing Zoo once again, and as predicted, Perna is going to just get the one drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. So he does mulligan most of his hand. So he got the Tuskar Totemic that he can actually play early on in the game. Okay, so playing the Voidwalker. Like it's too soon. One attack creature definitely means nothing, in my opinion. Ginge might even just play it with the Argent Squire with the beast, develop you a little bit of a board. Oh, but playing the Forbidden Ritual instead. So saving the Beast of Sergeant just for a more efficient kind of trading later on on the game. It does contest most of the board, and you can potentially get a pretty big creature out of it too, like the Totem Golem. If the Totem Golem is really picked up here, it's actually very devastating for Ginge. But 1/1 is not bad because it does a little bit of contestion too. Okay, so we're gonna see the Argent Squire coming down. We're gonna see the Beast of Sergeant probably using it on one of the 1/1s to trade into the Tuskar Totemic, and keeping up a little bit of board control with the Voidwalker into the 1/1 and going to face. This is a little bit plays a little bard here, but instead toteming up instead, so that's also a little weak as well. But fortunately enough, a 1/1, a Searing Totem was spawned instead of any other one, because a 1/1 can actually damage his minions, and that's basically what you need. And if Ginge's actually gonna taunt up the Argent Squire, the 1/1 can actually trade into the Divine Shield if it's not traded in. Okay, so Defender Argus is being played here, as expected, just to create a stickier kind of board. Lightning Storm might actually come down here because this is actually a pretty threatening kind of board. Fire 2. It doesn't remove everything on the board, potentially, but it's still something on the board that you can play out. And the Defender Argus is not going to be sticking on the board, so pretty good for Perna. This might be actually a consideration of actually playing the Doomguard, but since your opponent's board is really weak, you can actually afford to play the Imp Gang Boss and the Crazed Alchemist and possibly just go face. You might actually want to pop this Divine Shield, but then again, if you do pop it, Perna has an easy trade with the 1-1, and he does board really nicely as well, especially when he has the Lightning Storm in hand and also the Stormcrack, and he doesn't really want to be overloaded too next turn just because he can play the Fire Elemental, so playing the Tusker Totemic is definitely really good in my opinion. And picking up the Mana Tide Totem, so Ginge might actually needs to react to that and use his minis to actually trade it out, and less damage actually going to the face, so Perna is definitely slowing down the game with the Mana Tide Totem itself. But Direwolf Alpha being picked up, so he's easily traded into the Mana Tide Totem if he so wishes to. Trading into the Tusker Totemic here. And then using the Direwolf Alpha, buffing up one of the 2 attack creatures, and just trading into the Mana Tide Totem. Alright, not bad, not bad. And playing an Argent Squire right at the end there. Definitely really good for Ginge at the moment. Building up a really, really good board, but we will probably see a Lightning Storm coming down. Okay, so possibly just, yeah, toteming up and just Lightning Storming. That's really good. Using Argent Squire to actually remove what's left on the board. So having a lot of control on Perna's kind of side of the board at the moment, so really, really good. Woohoo. I would probably just slam that. Drop the Power Overwhelming, that does feel kind of bad. Okay, so deciding not to drop the Power Overwhelming, but possibly using it to use on the face Nan, especially when you know 2 Lightning Storm are removed already. Yeah, Worgen Infiltrator is really, really good. Okay, using the 1-1 to actually trade it in. So any big creatures kind of Perna kind of plays out, you can actually use the power, or you can play actually the stickier kind of creature, which is the Thunderblood Valiant, which is a little bit harder to remove. But we know there's a Power Overwhelming in Ginge's hand, so that Worgen Infiltrator is actually gonna do a lot of work. And picking up the 3-drop, which is not the other one's a 2-drop or 1-drop, so you can actually play the Zoom card without losing too much value. But 2 Dark Shire Countsmen being picked up, that's really good. I would personally just use the Power Overwhelm right now to actually remove the Thunderblood Valiant, and then trade the 2/2 into the Totem. Alright. So yeah, playing Azure Drake was really Crackles on something else, like another bigger creature, like possibly like a Doom card or a Sea Giant. Just because Dark Councilman can actually snowball out of control most of the time, so removing it now is actually quite essential in my kind of opinion. Dark Councilman into the Doom card kind of play, but then again, it feels really bad to remove Forbidden Ritual since it's such a good card at the moment. That, like, since you know that double Lightning Storm are gone, Dark Shower Councilman into Abusive Charge, trade out the Azure Drake, and then playing the Forbidden Ritual for 3 tokens. I feel that's pretty good, and then you can potentially play your Doom Guard without any loss in terms of value. Resources on board, and not really allow Ginge to actually maintain this board. Hex is being played quite early. That's not bad too, assuming that your opponent doesn't really have Doomguard in hand. Like, I know like the Hex is kind of good.
So many.
Oh man. Alright, okay, so Defender Argent is being picked up, so removing most of the taunts on board. And the Doomguard, just because Perna is using Hex, right? Use the Hex. Not hexing the Doomguard really hurts him now, because then he's gonna be really hard to move, especially like behind that taunt too that he created from Hex. So it's really well protected. Like, so even stuff like, okay, so he trades it in instead. So this is actually pretty hard to remove as well, just because the Fire Elemental can't actually clean. Okay, so Fire Elemental coming down here, removing what he can actually remove. And then we also see a thing from below as well too. Wow, thing from below. What a good card. What a strong card. Just because you can fit in such a big creature in such a high mana cost. Like, you can play a high mana cost kind of creature and then play thing from below from 0. Very huge kind of tempo kind of play. But Ginge picking up the Sea Giant. Oh man. And for Perna, in order to actually remove the Seagiant, he first has to go through the Hex Frog first. And we know that there's no Lightning Storm unless he picks a Rock Biter weapon here. Ooh, actually that's actually quite good too. Combo this with the Flame Tongue Totem as well. But I don't think he actually needs to, just because he can't really remove... Oh yeah, he can actually remove the Seagiant with the Flame Tongue Totem. So picking up that Argent's Horse Rider is actually very, very crucial. Oh man, back and forth. Direwolf Alpha being picked up to potentially move almost everything. And another Doomguard. Keep this Doomguard alive because he really needs to rely on this Doomguard to actually win the game at the moment. Yeah, like the Azure Drake needed to die, but he because the Azure Drake is like the biggest threat right now because the Doomguard. Okay, so going face instead, I definitely like that. You can't really remove the board kind of cleanly, and then you need time because you're gonna lose out most of your minions on board just because you left something on something on board on the Perna side of the board. But unfortunately, use it. Actually, he needs to use this whole board to actually. Oh, no, not really. Just because there is a Rockbiter weapon in hand, he can combo it with the Divine Shield to remove the Doomguard, and then I guess Perna can use his Azure Drake to trade off one of the Flame Imps, in my opinion. Oh, actually, yeah, Direwolf Alpha is probably the better pick, just because it does represent 4 points of damage. And then we're gonna see a Mana Totem from Perna's side, pressuring down Ginge just a little bit, just by gaining a little bit of card advantage. Imp Boss, not a bad pickup. You're going to use the Flame Imp to trade into Flame Tongue Totem because that represents way too much damage. And you can't really afford trading into 3/2 into the Flame Tongue Totem and using the 1/1 trade into the Argent Horse Rider, and then forcing Perna to actually use the Azure Drake to actually trade something on the board. Damage on board, and there is another 4 in hand with the Lightning Bolt. Ooh, Taunt Totem, that's actually pretty good. Feeling the Tunnel Trap buffed up as well. It's just, it depends if Perna actually wants to use his Azure Drake to actually trade into something like the Flame Imp, or actually onto one of the 1/1s, just so he can keep the board a little bit cleared and have it like a lot more efficient kind of trade. So Flame Imp is actually the target. I definitely like that. Just so the only thing Ginge can actually move is probably the Taunt. Okay. Ooh, picking up the Thunderbolt Valiant. That's actually really good. Oh man. Picking up very small creatures from Ginge's kind of side. He really needs a big creature to actually stabilize at the moment. Just force Perna to sort of waste his board to actually trade into it. Like, he really needs something like another Sea Giant at the moment, or even a Leroy. Leroy would be lethal, but picking up the thing from below, that's huge. So even Leroy is not lethal at the moment, and he's kind of trade off most of the board with the totems he has right now, buffing them up by 2 attack. So he's able to trade up most of the board, especially removing the Knife Juggler. That's going to be really crucial, especially when you have another taunt on board, which is 5/5 body. That's hard to remove as well. So I possibly will use this Tunnel Trap to remove this Knife Juggler as well. Having only 2 1/1s on board is definitely not feeling good on Ginge's kind of side. So in order for Ginge to win, he definitely needs some Power Overwhelming and Leroy. So let's see what he picks up. So Flame Imp and Knife Juggler. That is not what he's looking for, and Perna is going to take game number 2. Seeing from last game.
I must protect the wild. Your soul shall be mine.
And Ginge sticking in with his Zoo deck, which is good, just because you don't really want your opponent to have too much information about your other kind of decks. But very good curve, looking like a very good curve for on Ginge's kind of side. You have the 1-drops, you can call it into a 3-drop like the Imp Gang Boss. And on Perna's side, his hand is actually pretty good too, especially with the Innervate. You can probably Innervate in Fandral and also follow up with the Pharaoh Spirit, Pharaoh Rage with like 8 armor and also 4 attack, just for that tempo kind of play. That's actually really good. The teacher is kind of not bad too, and also picking up teacher or the Fandral, but he actually might not choose to, but I feel like it's too good not to. Because if he actually coins in the Fandral, he's actually forced to kind of remove it just because of how big of a threat it actually is. So Direwolf is actually being played out at the moment and just being removed straight up with the minions on board. Actually, he's going face. Wow, he's actually going face. That is very, very interesting. Just because I feel like Fandral is just such a strong card. Especially if you have the cards to actually combo with it, like the Pharaoh Rage that we see, and also Power of the Wild too. That's also a possibility. But I understand, like, you're wasting most of your resources on board to actually trade into this kind of creature, so and you can't really afford it. But looking at this kind of tempo play that Perna has right now, that's actually very disgusting. Alright, now you really need to remove this Fandral, is because yeah, it's such a big threat as we've seen before with the combo of the Pharaoh Rage, gaining 8 armor and 4 attack. Yeah, saving the Abusive Sergeant, potentially use it on something else for more efficient kind of trades. Imp Boss is possibly played out here, but then again, the Abusive Sergeant can't even remove this Violet Teacher, so going face with the Direwolf Alpha. We do see the swipe, so that's gonna potentially be very to your hero power, so you can clean most of the board up, especially the token that the Imp Boss is gonna spawn. But he picks up Nourish instead. That's actually not bad too. You're gonna draw into more of your reactive type of cards like Wrath, and potentially a very big taunt such as the Ancient Fort that we've seen before. Oh, right, but you gained like the 2 more kind of mana with him, the Nourish. So okay, so he uses Nourish to gain the 2, oh yeah, right, the 2 mana instead rather than drawing, so that's not bad as well. So we will see the Abusive Sergeant potentially just trading into the Violet Teacher, just because it's going to be a really, really big kind of threat, and allows you to play the Sea Giant, so that's pretty huge too. Oh man, that is going to be very, very huge. But then again, Perna does have... Oh, if you pop the Divine Shield right now, I don't feel like it's going to be good. I know that Perna might actually use the 2/2 tokens to trade into one of the 1/1s, but you have to consider swipe as well. But double swipe is being picked up too. Oh my god, that's actually a really, really devastating kind of hand. So swipe is definitely going to be used here on the Sea Giant with the 2/2 tokens. And then another second swipe to clean off the board entirely, and relying on the 2 tokens on board to contest the board, whatever Ginge actually plays out. Ooh, Imp Boss is pretty good at contesting these 2 tokens, and picking up Defender of Argent to follow up later on in the game, that's pretty good too. But Perna, although he's out the cards, he does have the Azure Drake to back him up too, and also able to play Mire Keeper, spawning another 2/2 kind of minions with it. Oh man, pick up the Wrath. That's really good to remove this Imp Boss really cleanly. I would definitely remove it, just because your opponent actually has the possibility of manipulating the card too, with like Defender of Argus or even Abusive Sergeant to actually remove your Azure Drake. Okay, picking up the Dark Peddler. Let's see what kind of 1-drop he gets. Both the Imp Boss and the Dragon's Egg, that'll be possibly really good too. But you can possibly make it like a really big taunt with the Shield Barrier with the Defender of Argus as well. Or you could generate like 3 kind of taunts with the Dark Peddler.
My shield for Argent.
Alright. Alright, so another Azure Drake is being played. So these taunts are actually not that hard for Perna to actually move. Picking up the Living Ribs, that's really good. Able to remove almost everything so effectively. And you also can Wrath for 2 to draw a card as well. That's actually really good. Or is it for 3? Oh, it's for 3. That's even more devastating. Alright, so using 2/2 to trade into the Imp Boss, yeah, using Azure Drake to trade into the big Shield Barrier. You can possibly use the Living Roots to just remove the Defender of Argus, but you don't necessarily need to. You can just Hero Power and just remove all the 1/1s. Or you can follow with the Living Roots as well. Yeah, 4 board clear is always good. I like it. Four board living roots. Followed with the Emperor next turn, just as a very big body to try to seal the game as well. So staring down at like 12 points of damage, 13, so he actually has lethal the following turn too. So Perna taking the finals 3-0 once again.